Hi, it's Kay Johnson at Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers, and I'm here today with my co-host Elizabeth.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about our favorite books. So, Betsy, what have you been reading?
I have been working on a couple different series. I'm still working my way through Charlie Davidson. She's our private investigator, Grim Reaper extraordinaire. And life, the further you get into this, life is getting more complicated for Charlie, but
Okay.
it's still enjoyable. I'm still
How many are there? How many books have you read?
I just finished 8th Grave After Dark, and I believe there are like 13. So, but now I'm at the point where with the audiobooks, there are other people who are keeping up with me. So there's one person right in front of me and there's one person right behind me. So now now it tells me I have a 4-week waiting period
Okay.
for the next one. So taking a little break from those while I wait for the next book. There's a series called The Red Queen, and this is by Victoria Aveyard, we're going to go with, Aveyard. And this would be, I don't think it's like it's sort of a dystopian
Okay.
series. In this place where the main character lives, there are two types of people. You have reds and silvers. How you know if you're a red or a silver? Reds have red blood, silvers have silver blood. And so also, silvers have these special powers, which mean you can move things, or you're super strong, or you can, they have more of like the psychic type powers. So I can't remember, Mare is the main character's name, and she goes to work for the king and queen, and while
Red or blue, green, silver?
she is red.
Okay.
So she goes to work for the silvers, who are the king and queen, and when she is at the palace working, she falls and sets something on fire with electricity. And so she's suddenly pulled into this world because she has red blood, but she has these special powers, which isn't supposed to happen. So she's pulled into this secret life where she has to pretend to be someone she isn't and trying to figure out who she can trust while other crazy things go on.
Okay.
It's a young adult, so they all sort of follow that same pattern. A woman or main character is thrust into a world she doesn't know, trying to find her way around while also staying true with what she knows.
Is it good?
It was really good. I listened to the audiobook for this. Obviously, I'm very big with audiobooks. I'm listening to them all the time.
Well,
right now.
audiobooks are the fastest growing segment
Yes.
in books, so I can see why.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Interesting twist at the end. So I'm on hold for
The
that
next one?
So it's one of those things where you start these series and then it's like at the same time other people have discovered them or people are getting back into them. So then it's like, oh, come on. And you don't want to like check them all out at the same time because you do that and then
They all show up on the same day. I've had that happen.
or if you check them all out, then like something happens and you don't finish the first one, and then because it's an audiobook on the Libby app, they just go away when you're done with them. So then you
okay.
come back and you're like, well, I can't listen to the second book because I didn't finish the first one. So then you have to send them all back
Oh, yeah.
and start all over again.
Yeah, I got to notice that a book came and I could download it, and when I went to download it, it wouldn't download. And I was sort of frustrated because it was a book I
Yeah.
wanted to read. It was sort of like, "Ah."
Well, I had it happen the other day that I thought I'd requested a book from Libby, but I actually requested the actual book from the library. So when it told me it was ready to read, I went to download it and it wasn't there. And then I was like, oh, this is an actual book that is at the actual library that I need to go and pick up.
Maybe that was the problem. Maybe it was a real book.
Did you ever a real book?
I don't think so, but maybe.
Yeah, no, I waiting at the library for me right now is the next in the Hannah Swenson books by Joanne Flukes.
Oh, yes, sure.
The lemon meringue pie murders.
Ooh.
Murder.
Does it have recipes?
Yes. She had one she was talking about making these grilled cheese sandwiches in one of the books. For those who aren't familiar with Hannah Swenson, she lives in a fictional city in Minnesota, and she owns a cookie shop. And so when she's baking during the books, at the end of the chapter will then be the recipe for the cookie she has been talking about through the whole chapter.
So are you hungry the whole time you're reading
you want
these books?
so many cookies. But in the one book, she's talking about making grilled cheese sandwiches. But when she makes the grilled cheese sandwich, instead of using regular old American plastic-looking cheddar cheese, she uses cream cheese.
Ooh.
And I'm like, that has got to be so good. And I'm still, so like when I saw this book was coming, I was like, oh, I'm going to want these grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yes.
I got to try this. But anytime anybody dies in these books, it's like they're found, like one of the dead bodies is found in her cookie shop. The other two times they're found like with her desserts. Like the one guy fell on top of the dessert when he died, or it's behind her cookie shop. But they're really good. They have really fun cats. Really fun characters, and she has a cat who is so funny. I don't remember his name, but she just loves this cat, and all she talks about is she's always putting out either food or treats, or the cat's breaking into the cookies, or something is always happening with this cat. And she's also the one that I think in her books, or it might be another one, the character puts the cookies she makes in her coffee cup so that it like flavors her coffee, and then she has the cookie bits at the bottom of her cup to eat.
Ooh.
I'm like, oh, that sounds like a really good idea. So I'm excited to read the next one in that book.
Have you made any of the recipes?
I haven't, mostly because of dietary restrictions, I would have to then figure out what kind of gluten-free flour to use, and then I just don't know if it would taste the same.
Yeah, kidding.
Whereas bread and cream cheese, if you put it in a toaster, it will make a grilled cheese no matter what you do.
That's true. You can use
That I can
gluten-free
make.
bread for that.
Yes. So I mean, I read some of them, I'm like, well, if I had the time, I could figure out how to make them, but I just have to make sure I have cookies in the house when I read those books. And I just want it
That's
so
right.
bad.
Yeah.
There's so many. And then for me, it's the same with Lillian Jackson Brown's The Cat books. They're always going somewhere and eating or having some kind of drink, and so you're always wanting to eat when you are reading these books. And I always find that when I start them, I don't have enough snacks in the house when I'm reading some of these. It's like, I need a snack. I need something to eat while I'm reading this book.
Lauren Sanders did the first, second, third, and fourth Deadly Sins. And Delaney, the detective in the books, makes dry sandwiches and wet sandwiches.
Oh, gosh.
And he really goes into detail. It's always like rare roast beef and rye bread and Russian dressing and this. That would be a wet sandwich that he would eat over the sink. He drinks it with Heineken. And I mean, my goodness, you're reading these books, you're just like, sign me up.
Yeah. I know, it's like they should come with like a small packet of cookies or something. These are the cookies that are made in the book. Eat them as they show up. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is when she's traveling around, Hannah in these books, she's always got day-old cookies in her car that she just is handing out to people. Or like when she wants to get in somewhere and she knows what police detective is going to be there in the squad car, she'll just hand them cookies, and then she gets into these places she's wanting to
bribery by cookies.
Yeah. So they're really good. So
I read
and there's
one.
like 12 or 13 of those.
Yeah,
too.
I've read one of them, and I can't remember which one. Was it a strawberry shortcake one, or wedding cake?
Strawberry shortcake murders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might be the first one is the chocolate chip cookie murders. Because that's the very first time you're
This one, they're at a wedding reception, I think, and someone gets killed.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and
surprise!
Surprise! The title says murder. Somebody got killed.
That's right. That's right.
What else have you been reading?
Let me see. I'm reading a series. There's, I think, 4 books in the series, and it's a 1920s style historical cozy mystery series by Sonia Perrin. And there's ones like something about the car race, the Tea Party, the Card Club, and I forget what the 4th one is.
Okay.
But she is wealthy, and she's an American, and she came to England and married a Count or Lord or something. And he died.
Okay.
And she went back to America for a couple years, and now she's come back to England to kind of take over the estates and everything. Well, her grandmother felt she needed a bodyguard. So she has this guy named Tom that's with her. And Tom is, I think, independently wealthy. He was a wildcatter. And so all of a sudden he's not the chauffeur, he's acting as her date or something at one of these weekend houses. And so now they have to figure out how they can replace the chauffeur. And so it gets very complicated, but they're pretty good. She's kind of fun. You know, she talks about her husband who died, you know, and kind of that transition of moving on and things. That's pretty good.
It kind of sounds like the Phryne Fisher mysteries.
Okay.
They were made into a BBC show called Miss Fisher's Mysteries.
Oh, okay.
And those are set in Australia, and they're
Okay.
a book series. The author's last name is Greenwood, but she comes back, and so she comes back to Australia, and you know, people start dying, and she has to solve it. But it's 1920s. She's very flapperish, very, you know.
That's what this is.
Nowadays, you would call her a feminist.
Okay, yep. That's how Evie Parker is, because she wants to run all this, her husband's stuff, and these men, you know, are always interfering, thinking the little woman needs help. Well, she certainly doesn't need their help.
Well, that's how it is with book series, with these books, you know. It's kind of fun because you are seeing more strong female characters that aren't just going to sit around and...
Yeah.
No damsels in distress, really.
No. Another 20s series, or maybe it could even be 30s, I'm not sure, it's called the Angela Marchmont series.
Okay.
It's by a gal named Clara Benson.
Okay.
And there's 10 in the series. And these are wonderful books, because it starts out, she's an American again, and she's sort of a checkered past, I think. You never really find out. But she comes to England, and she has lots of money. Okay. And the first book, she's at a weekend house party, and she ends up solving the mystery. And she isn't a sleuth by any stretch of the imagination. And then each book she solves more mysteries.
Okay.
So those are good. And then this gal, Clara Benson, has a second series, which they're called the Freddie Pilkington Soames books. Okay. Now, Freddie is in these other books with...
goodness. Poor Freddie.
Yeah, with Angela. And anyway, his mother is, he's wealthy, he's sort of a layabout. Well, his mother gets a job working for a newspaper writing the society column. And somehow someone thinks Freddie should be a reporter. Okay. So Freddie takes up, and he in the first book, he's like, well, I'm only dealing with murders. I'm not dealing with I'm not going here and I'm not going there. And all of a sudden he ends up becoming a super great writer. And I think he might even work for the government, like as a spy at some point. But and his mother is always doing things too that are sort of slippery. And his mother found a body in one of these books, and she calls Freddie to get rid of the body. So Freddie and his mother are trying to get rid of this body, and they are not very successful. But it is really funny. And there's a new one that's coming out. I just checked it today, and it looks good. It's about a guy who's murdered in a locked room kind of mystery during a party. And so it should be pretty good. But I really like Freddie because he's good looking. He's got a lot of money. And, his mother thinks he should get married. Well, he can't find the right girl because the girl he loves has married someone else. But I don't know that Freddie really would have married her. But Freddie's pretty fun. I like Freddie a lot.
Oh, good.
So anything else fun?
Let's see. What else did I finish? There was a book called Pretty Little Mistakes, a do-over novel, and this one's by Heather Mickelhatton. We're going to go with that. I don't know if I pronounced that right. But this book would be a choose your own adventure for adults.
Oh, okay.
So it's you read the first you read the first one. The first chapter starts where you've just graduated from high school, and then you have to make the choice: do you go to college, do you travel for a year? And then so based on all of your different choices, different things happen to you. So then you can go back and read them again, and some of it's kind of awkward and weird, but half the time you wind up dead.
There you go.
So for really random things happen to you, and so it's a little out there even for like a choose your own adventure book. They're not your classic choose your own adventure from back, was it the 80s or early 90s when those were popular. Tom read a bunch of them when he was growing up.
Okay.
So, but it's an interesting take on it, but sometimes you're reading through and you're like, I didn't read all, because there's it says in here there's 150 different endings, and I was like, I read like 4 and I was like, I'm good.
You don't need the other 146.
I don't need the other whatever it is. I mean, it was an interesting read though, and an interesting. I think it would be interesting to write a book like that, because you would have to, you have to think of all the different things and the different ways it could end, and then it's for me it would be interesting to figure out how far you could take the storyline,
Sure.
Before you have to end it, and
Right.
then go down these other paths.
That would be interesting.
I have power to Heather for being able to write a book like this. I would assume it's not easy. I could not write it. I did donate the book because I don't think it is one that I would read again, but it's an interesting concept. So
Sounds like it. Well, I'm looking forward to some books.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Silva has a new one coming out, which I think sounds pretty good. Or actually, at this point, it's out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to get it. And it's about, it's called The New Girl.
okay,
And he writes spy thrillers.
okay,
And this new girl is going to school in Switzerland, and she goes to school with a whole contingent of bodyguards and
Okay.
armored cars, and so people think she's like a head of state daughter or somebody,
okay.
which she actually is. Her father's crown prince of Saudi Arabia, and anyway, she gets kidnapped, and the only person he trusts is Gabriel Allon, the legendary chief of Israeli intelligence.
We've already decided that Gabriel is not a very good guy sometimes.
Well, Gabriel spends a
Has
lot
some-
of time in the gray zone.
I was going to say, he's got some questionable ethics.
Yes, yeah. So, and I think it sounds kind of good.
Okay.
Last year, I wasn't nuts about his. He always brings one out in July every year.
Yeah.
So he's got a really ambitious schedule. So that can be a double-edged sword, depending.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this one's better.
Good.
Another one I'm really looking forward to is the sequel. Ellen Hildebrand's got a new book coming out.
Okay.
Last year she did a book called In Paradise.
Okay.
And it was about this she was a homemaker, beautiful home in Iowa. And she gets a call that her husband's dead. He died in a plane crash in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Well, he's not supposed to be in the Caribbean. And she doesn't know how he came to die.
Mm-hmm.
She gets there and finds out he lives in a huge mansion. He's got another wife, and or girlfriend at least, and all sorts of complications. And then her sons come now in the second book. What Happens in Paradise comes out in October.
Okay.
And this one, the sons and mom are going to get to the bottom of this and get the scoop on what dad is.
Yeah.
But the previous one ended with them thinking they may have been murdered because they were killed in a helicopter crash
Okay.
and stuff. So we'll see what happens. But
Interesting.
I like the characters, and I mean, you can imagine the shock if you think your husband's at a business trip and find out he's in the Caribbean,
Yeah.
and they go visit and they find out he's got this huge mansion, and then they find out there's another woman. I mean, every shock is just that much.
I would be pretty mad. If
Yes.
That, if
Well,
that,
she vacillates between being really mad and being terribly hurt.
Oh, yeah.
But it's good because it's a good read and stuff. So I really look forward to that.
Good.
Another one who's bringing out a new book is William Kent Kruger. And I don't know, have you ever read any of his?
He's on my to-read list, but there are at this point 300 some books on that to-be-read list, so it might be a little while. Plus,
Well-
there are 3 boxes of unread books at my house.
That's
So-
true. Well, he has a new book coming out in September.
Okay.
And it's a sequel. It's a standalone. It's not one of his Cork O'Connor books, but
Okay.
it's a standalone, and it's described as a companion novel to his 2003 bestseller Ordinary Grace.
Okay.
And Ordinary Grace was the One Book One community read in Hutch a
Yeah.
few years ago.
Okay.
So people may want to see that or get it. You'll be able to get the library. It's called This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
Trying to think. This is one I just got for my birthday from my husband, because he just asked me what books I wanted, and I sent him titles to find. So this one is called A Gentleman in Moscow.
I've seen that. I've seen it. It's like on a bestseller list, isn't
Yes,
it?
by Amor Towles. That. And the premise of this book is it starts out in 1922, and it's the story of Count Alexander Rostov. He was an aristocrat during the Bolshevik tribunal, and so he is sort of put under house arrest in a hotel. He can't leave the hotel, so he has to stay there, and so the book follows him sort of through the decades, what happens while he's living in this hotel. And so this one I've been really excited to read for a while, so I think this might be moving to the top of my
to-do list?
To be read list. Yeah, just because it sort of jumps around with people that are there with him, and he can't leave?
Is he in Moscow?
Well, a gentleman in Moscow.
Sorry. Yes, I'm
going to guess he's in Moscow, probably. So I think it'll be really interesting just to see, because I'm sure it'll be the people living around him will change and he can't. So
yes,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, sounds good. Maybe we can talk about it in a future.
Yes, as
episode.
long as I get it read about, we can talk about it.
That's right. That's right. Another new book people may want to make note of if you're a David Baldacci fan. He has a new series he's starting, and the book comes out. It's probably out already. Came out in July.
Okay.
And so it's called One Good Deed, and the new character is introducing as Archer, a World War II soldier fresh out of prison for a crime he didn't commit. Of course,
it's always a crime they didn't commit.
According to these authors, prison is full of innocent men.
It is, I'm sure there are people in there now that will tell you that.
Yeah, I'm sure there are too. I am sure there are too. I was going to tell you too, Betsy, Ruth Ware has a new book coming out.
I know, I'm on hold for it already.
Ooh, it sounds pretty scary.
Yeah,
The Turn of the Key.
Yes.
And it's about how does a nanny find herself on trial for murder.
I'm so excited.
Ooh, I think it sounds kind of creepy.
I'm waiting for it to change on Libby to because right now, because it hasn't been released, it's an unexpected wait time. And I'm just like, come on. And so I love Ruth Ware's writing. So I'm very excited for that one. I might actually have to just go out and buy it and not even wait for it to show up.
Sometimes I just have to bite the bullet. In fact, I actually pre-ordered that new Ellen Hildebrand.
Oh, yeah.
Today on Amazon, thinking, oh yeah, I need this.
Yeah. The other one I'm looking forward to starting is this one. So this is a classic. This is The Uninvited by Dorothy McArdle. She's an Irish author, and this book came out originally in 1942, and then it was republished by Tramp Press just a couple of years ago. They call it the Recovered Voices series.
Ooh.
So they're republishing classic books that aren't available anymore from the original publishers. And so there was a movie in the 1940s as well that came out called The Uninvited, and it has been a movie that I have watched as far back as I can remember. We watched this movie, and for the time period, it's amazing what they could accomplish with the limited. Yes, so it is the story of a brother and sister, Rick and Pamela Fitzgerald, and they are on vacation and find this house up on a hill and fall head over heels in love with it and buy it, and it turns out that they are not the only people who live in this house.
That's right.
The house is haunted, and so there's a whole twist and turn history story that leads up to climactic things happening on cliffs and in the house that I've always really loved the movie, and I've never read the book. And I know Nana, my grandmother, Marianne, had always talked about reading it. I know you and Mom have read it, but I'd never read it.
I haven't read it for years and years and years, so I'd like to reread it.
So well, I got an Amazon gift card for my birthday and this was on my wish list, so I ordered it. So I'm very excited to start reading this one just to see. It's always fun to see how close
A book
they
follows the
stayed.
movie.
But especially with some of those
the
early
movie follows the book.
some of those early black and white movies do a really great job of staying true.
More than modern day.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see the difference in that. But this one, it came right before it came like right after I went on vacation, and I was like, it's sitting there at home, it's waiting for me. I need to go home, and I actually ordered because we grew up watching it on VHS, and so I just looked online for sure, and it was there on DVD. So I bought it so I can watch the movie again once I
you
read
read
the book. So, which is always fun to do, but that one I'm really excited for because that sort of just it's something. It's just
Nostalgia.
It's nostalgia. It's just a movie that's always been there, and so it's fun to go and read the book. And I have a couple like that too. I have the book copy of The Ghost of Mrs. Muir that I haven't read, so I want to read that one. And then there's also a book that was the basis for the movie Laura.
Did
that
you
I wanna
ever read the book Portrait of Jenny?
I haven't, but that's another favorite black and white movie. There's so many of them.
That is a great movie. A great movie. Good book too. A great movie.
Yes, there's a
And
lot
Ghost
of
of
them.
Mrs. Muir is one of the original, not the TV series.
Yes, the
Although the
original.
TV series was fun.
I've never seen the TV series, but the book, the original movie, it's like one of my very favorite movies. It goes between that one and Casablanca as to what's my favorite. But every time I watch it, I cry at the exact same part every single time. And I'm sure when I read the book and I get to that
What part you cry when she dies?
No.
Oh, he dies?
Spoiler alert. Well, he's already dead. He's a ghost. No, there's
Betsy,
the part
this is
where
not a new
he
movie.
has
People have seen it for 50
where
years.
he comes in and he is giving that speech while she's asleep when he's going to leave.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right in the feels every time.
Yeah, because he feels she needs to live her life.
Yeah.
And
But just how he I mean, it's Rex Harrison, first of all, he's a great actor. But just the line delivery it gets you right in the feels, man.
it is a great
Yeah.
movie, though. I mean, it really is. If you haven't seen Ghost of Mrs. Muir, I think you can order it at the library.
I'm sure you can.
And you can order Portrait of Jenny, because I've gotten that at the
Well,
library.
I'm going to have to get that one.
Portrait of Jenny is just a wonderful book
Yes.
and movie. Yeah.
If you have any favorite classics that were either black and white movies that are your favorite books or just favorite books, let us know on Facebook or Instagram or send us an email, and we will see you next time.